Right, this example relevant for special provision and general provision for expected losses on trade receivable. Expected losses equal provision for doubtful debts. Based on new syllabus, we have to use expected losses on trade receivable. Try to recognize special provision as well as general provision. Think about this example. It has given trial balance as at 31st March 21. It is included allowances for expected losses on trade receivable. Opening balance it has given. And impairment loss on trade receivable, it is equal bad debts. Allowances for expected losses equal provision for doubtful debts. And trade receivable, it is equal data. Now think about additional information. Think values in 1000. Rupees 29,000 should be written off from debtor as impairment loss on trade receivable. Therefore, debtor equal trade receivable. It has given 29,000 should be written off from trade receivable. From trade receivable as impairment loss on trade receivable. That is the first part. And second one very important. Given rupees 100,000 debtors are provided 100% special allowances for expected losses. That is a special provision on trade receivable, and 10% general allowances for expected losses. That is a general provision on trade receivable are provided remaining balance of trade receivable. Therefore, general provision should be calculated based on remaining balance of trade receivable. Special provision as well as general provision. Special provision as well as general provision. Right, they ask relevant ledger account for the year end 31st March 21. They ask for the year end 31st March 21. They ask ledger accounts. Therefore, you have to prepare. There are 4 ledger accounts. First one, trade receivable accounts. And second one, impairment loss on trade receivable. Normally, there are 4 ledger accounts. First one, prepare the ledger accounts. Trade receivable accounts. Trade receivable accounts. As well as impairment loss on trade receivable, it is equal bad debts. Impairment loss on trade receivable as well as expected losses on trade receivable. Here, impairment loss. Impairment loss on trade receivable. Impairment loss on trade receivable. Next one, expected losses on trade receivable. Expected losses on trade receivable. Expected losses on trade receivable as well as allowances for expected losses on trade receivable. Normally, there are 4 ledger accounts. Allowances for expected losses on trade receivable. Allowances for expected losses on trade receivable. It is equal provision for doubtful debts. And expected losses on trade receivable, it is equal doubtful debts expense accounts. And impairment loss on trade receivable, it is equal bad debts accounts. And trade receivable, that is debtor accounts. Based on new syllabus, we have to use these words. Right from the beginning, take the balances available in the trial balance. It has given trial balance, trade receivable account balance, it has given 829,000. That value should be included as a balance brought forward. Therefore, trade receivable accounts 829,000 as a balance brought forward. As a balance brought forward. Then impairment loss on trade receivable 24,000 also should be included as a balance brought forward. 24,000 as a balance brought forward debit side. Balance brought forward debit side as impairment loss on trade receivable. Next one, allowances for expected losses on trade receivable. It has given opening balance 90,000. That value also should be included as a balance brought forward. 90,000 allowances for expected losses also asset account, but we can see credit balance. Reason effect for asset decrease, therefore as a balance brought forward credit side. As a balance brought forward. Right now see the adjustment. Adjustment first one 11 for impairment loss on trade receivable. Rupees 29,000 should be written off from debtor from trade receivable as a impairment loss on trade receivable. That is a bad debts. Therefore 29,000. It is confirmed debtor value cannot be recovered. That is the meaning of impairment loss on trade receivable. It can sure එකටම හම්බෙන්නේ නැහැ අපිට. That is expense. Therefore it should be removed from trade receivable accounts. Trade receivable account credit, impairment loss on trade receivable account debit. 29,000. Those are not recorded yet available in the adjustment. It is confirmed debtor value cannot be recovered. Sure එකටම අපිට හම්බෙන්නේ නැත්නම් අයින් කරලා දානවා අපි. Therefore trade receivable account credit 29,000, values in 1,000, and impairment loss on trade receivable account debit 29,000. Therefore trade receivable accounts credit as impairment loss on trade receivable, name of other ledger accounts, and impairment loss on trade receivable account debit as a trade receivable, name of other ledger accounts. Think about double entry for impairment loss on trade receivable. Effect for debtor decrease, debtors account credit, impairment loss on trade receivable account debit. Now think about balance part, very important. Now closing balance of trade receivable should be calculated. Debit side increase 829,000. Take that value credit side. Therefore closing balance of trade receivable correct value equal 800,000. That value balance carried down from debit side to credit side. And it should be included debit side as a balance brought forward. As a balance brought forward 800,000. Therefore this is the receivable amounts. මේක තමයි අපිට හම්බෙයි කියලා හිතන ගාන. Now think about, now try to recognize general provision and special provision. This is the trade receivable amounts. ඔන්න අපිට හම්බෙන්න තියෙනවා මෙච්චරක්. Then it has given 100,000 debtors are provided 100% special allowances for expected losses on trade receivable and 10% general allowances for expected losses on trade receivable are provided remaining balance of trade receivable. Now try to recognize special provision as well as general provision. This is a receivable amounts. This is a receivable amounts. From that value, then මේක තමයි අපිට හම්බෙන්න තියෙන ගාන. මේකේ 100,000 debtors ලා ඉන්නවා. අන්න ඒගොල්ලන්ගෙන් ෂුවර් එකටම අපිට හම්බෙන්නේ නැහැ කියලා කියන්න බෑ. හැබැයි මේ යන විදියට හම්බෙන්නේ නැති වෙන්න තියෙන ඉඩකට වැඩි. Think about receivable amount equal 800,000. Out of 800,000, 100,000 debtors අපිට ෂුවර් නැහැ. මේ යන විදියට අපිට හම්බෙන්නේ නැති වෙන්න තියෙන ඉඩකට වැඩි. අන්න ඒගොල්ලන්ට අපි ස්පෙෂල් ප්‍රොවිෂන් එකක් කරනවා. ජෙනරල් ප්‍රොවිෂන් 10% කරනවා වෙනුවට, ජෙනරල් ප්‍රොවිෂන් කරනවා වෙනුවට මේක අපි අයිඩෙන්ටිෆයි කරගන්න ඩේටා කෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා. දැන් සමහර කට්ටියන් බලන්න සල්ලි ගන්න තියෙන එකට අඩුයි. ඒත් ඒගොල්ලෝ 10% කරලා හරියන්නේ නැහැ අපිට. It has given 100,000 debtors are provided 100% special provision. දැන් මේකෙන් අපි කෙලින්ම 10% හොයනවා වෙනුවට අපි බලනවා මේ ඩේටාස් වල ඇනලයිස් කරලා ඒගොල්ලෝගෙන් අපිට කොයි වගේ විදියට සල්ලි හම්බෙයිද ඉස්සරහදී. අන්න එහෙම හම්බෙන්න තියෙන ඩේටාස් ලගෙන් තාම අපිට කන්ෆර්ම් වෙලා නැහැ. හම්බෙන්නේ නැහැයි කියලා. හැබැයි අපිට හිතෙනවා මේ යන විදියට සල්ලි ගන්න බැරි වෙන්න තියෙන ඉඩකඩ වැඩි මේගොල්ලෝ. අන්න ඒකට 100% provision එකක් කරනවා. That is a special provision. Therefore, try to recognize special provision as well as general provision. Therefore, special provision as well as general provision. Special provision and general provision. General provision, think it is relevant for calculation part of expected losses. Expected losses. දැන් අපිට 800,000 වලට කෙලින්ම 10% බලන්න බෑ. ඒක ඇතුලේ ඉන්නවා 100,000 debtor කෙනෙක්. එයාගෙන් සල්ලි ගන්න තියෙන ඉඩකඩ අඩුයි. දෙන්න නැති වෙන්න තියෙන ඉඩකඩ වැඩියි. ඒතර එයාට 10% කරලා හරියන්නේ නැහැ. අන්න එහෙම අයිඩෙන්ටිෆයි කරගත්තු debtorsලා ඉන්නවා නම් සල්ලි හම්බෙන්න තියෙන ඉඩකඩ අඩුයි නම් හැබැයි තාම කන්ෆර්ම් වෙලා නැහැ දෙන්නේ නැහැයි කියලා. දෙන්නත් පුළුවන් ඉස්සරහදී. හැබැයි අපිට හිතනවා මේ යන විදියට මේගොල්ලොන්ගෙන් ගන්න බැරි වෙයි. අන්න ඒගොල්ලන්ට ස්පෙෂල් ප්‍රොවිෂන් එකක් කරනවා අපි. Therefore, it is given 100,000 debtors are provided 100% special provision. Therefore, special provision you have to calculate based on 100,000 debtors. 100% provision. 100%. Therefore, 100%. Therefore, this is the way you have to calculate expected losses. එහෙනම් මේගොල්ලෝගේ 100%ම කරොත් එමේ එතන එනවා 100,000. Then remaining debtor balance. Think about debtor balance equal 800,000. Based on balance part. Balance part equal 700,000. අන්න ඒකට general provision එකක් අපි කරනවා 10%. Therefore 10% equal 70,000. Therefore this is the closing balance of expected losses. Therefore it is relevant for expected losses calculation. Therefore closing balance of expected losses equal total value. Try to recognize general provision as well as special provision. General provision as well as special provision. Therefore, this is expected losses closing balance. It is relevant for calculation part. This is a closing balance. දැන් බලන්න කෙලින්ම මේකෙන් 10% බැලුවා නම් අපිට එන්නේ 80,000. දැන් අපිට 10% බලන්න බෑ. මේ debtors ලගෙන් මේ තමයි අපිට හම්බෙන්න තියෙන ගාන. ඒගොල්ලොන්ගෙන් 100,000 debtor කෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා. එයාගෙන් මේ යන විදියට අපිට සල්ලි ගන්න තියෙන ඉඩකඩ අඩුයි. දෙන්නේ නැති වෙයි. එයාට 10% කරලා හරියන්නේ නැහැ. Therefore special provision 100%. Therefore for that 100,000 and balance part based on balance trade receivable value 10% should be calculated. This is the general provision and this is a special provision. Therefore this is a closing balance of expected losses. Then recording part normal. Normally expected losses account debit, allowances for expected losses account credit. Normal double entry. But now it has given opening balance. If it has given opening balance, you have to recognize under provision over provision. Therefore, closing balance equal 170,000. That value should be recorded as a closing balance. Therefore, in the allowances for expected losses, if it has given opening balance, calculate value should be recorded as a closing balance, as a balance carried down. As a balance carried down, closing balance equal 170,000. That value balance brought forward 170,000 credit side. If it has given opening balance, you have to recognize under provision over provision. Then difference value should be transferred to the expected losses accounts. Difference value. Think what opening balance is lower, therefore difference value under provision. Then debit side increase, difference value should be transferred to the expected losses accounts. Therefore, debit side increase 170,000. Take that value credit side. Take that value credit side and difference value 80,000. That is the value should be considered as expense. Therefore, expected losses on trade receivable account debit, allowances for expected losses on trade receivable account credit. Therefore, here name of other ledger account, expected losses on trade receivable, expected losses on trade receivable, and expected losses on trade receivable account debit as allowances for expected losses on trade receivable. Then this one expense income statement as well as impairment loss on trade receivable also expense income statement. Therefore, this one should be closed now. Take debit side total amounts. Debit side total amount equal 53,000. Take that value credit side. Therefore, this is a closing entry. Therefore, difference value equal 53,000 as an income statement. Not carry down. Income statement. That is the meaning of closing entry. This value should be included under distribution expense. As expense. Impairment loss on trade receivable. And expected losses on trade receivable also expense. Debit side increase. Take that value credit side. Difference value as an income statement. This is a closing entry. Therefore, here as an income statement. Therefore, this is value should be included as expected losses on trade receivable under distribution expense. Think about is special provision relevant for closing balance of expected losses calculation. Closing balance of trade receivable equal 8,000. Based on that value, 10% cannot be calculated now. Reason, it has given identified debtors. Making inනවා එක debtor කෙනෙක්. අපි හඳුනාගත්තු debtor කෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා. එයාගෙන් මේ යන විදියට අපිට සල්ලි ගන්න තියෙන ඉඩකඩ අඩුයි. දෙන්නේ නැති වෙයි. තාම confirm වෙලා නැහැ. අන්න ඒගොල්ලන්ට general provision කරලා හරියන්නේ නැහැ. ඒ කටියට 100%ම provision එකක් අපි කරනවා. ඊතුරු කටියට විතරයි general provision කරන්නේ. Therefore, general provision is special provision. It is relevant for closing balance of expected losses calculation. But recording part normal. Expected losses on trade receivable account debit, allowances for expected losses account credit. But if it has given opening balance, calculate value should be recorded as a closing balance. Then difference value should be transferred. That is under provision. Sometimes it has given over provision also. Therefore, special provision, general provision, it is relevant for calculation for closing balance of expected losses. Then trade receivable 800,000. This value should be included under current assets. From this value, deduct closing balance of allowances for expected losses under current assets. Therefore, trade receivable minus this value should be included under current assets. As well as expected losses on trade receivable distribution expense and impairment loss on trade receivable also distribution expense. Try to recognize special provision as well as general provision.